the Goonies or
Goonies?
I can't see from here.
Mordor. Oh,
Okay.
not Mordor, Middle Earth.
Okay.
But I saw Mordor as I was slowly turning from my neck thing.
I've never seen Lord of the Rings. So. You failed as a friend. I'm sorry.
Well, guess what, everyone? Peter Jackson is our next guest.
Oh my gosh.
Do you even know who that is?
That's the director. I know that part.
Did you ever watch The Frighteners?
No.
Okay, well that one's more understandable. Most people haven't, but it's like a weird, quirky horror film with Michael J. Fox.
See, that one I should have watched.
You should have, because I think the whole thing's meant to be scary, but there are some really just clever moments in it that are very funny.
Yeah. No, I think Lord of the Rings, it was one of those things where I was like young enough where my parents didn't want to see it, and so I couldn't go. And then they didn't want to rent it, so I couldn't, and then by the time I was old enough to like go see it myself or rent it or whatever, everybody else was like, you have to watch it. And I was like, there's too much pressure. I can't.
Okay, 2 things. 3, probably.
Okay.
1, Peter Jackson was the director of The Frighteners. That wasn't just like a weird non sequitur.
No, I got that. Hopefully.
2 was related to the Lord of the Rings. Oh, I don't remember. But the point is, I'll totally watch it with you.
Okay, cool.
Like we can press play at the same time.
Oh, yay. My friends and I are doing we have a Scream night where we watch a new Scream like that every month. And so we're on our last one tomorrow, where we all live in different parts of the country and we press play.
I freaking love that.
It's very good.
Are you Zooming together or are you text together?
Zooming. So
That's
we
awesome.
have figured out the audio where it's enough that we can't hear each other's, like from the TV, but we know what's, so we'll go 3, 2, 1, and then we'll pause at times. And, and then we all met the Screamcast at last Comic-Con. So it was very...
Oh yeah, I saw that picture.
Yeah, so
very
those are my
cool.
girlies. We had Dina on last week.
Yep.
And she talked about, now, have I read the book? Not yet, but she did talk about like for 3 things you need to like, you can only do 3 things. And that has haunted me ever since, because there's so many things that I'm like, I have bought things or done things in an aspirational quality. And then I get so frustrated and angry at myself that I'm not getting enough done by things that I have bought. So that is something that's kind of haunted me. But I was wondering if you had any thoughts on Dina joining us from last week.
So from a personal standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
I think that like my 3 things have been gardening. I'm like really leaning into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a little group. And so like we do like seed exchange.
They're so cute. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now it's become a thing where it's like, this is a thing that I can do that I can enjoy that helps me socialize and also keeps me from spending money now that I'm in this cycle of like, we're giving each other seeds and stuff. So gardening, bike riding, whether it be Peloton or just like the regular bike with my family, because again, it's me taking care of myself or getting to socialize. And then I'm really trying to like give myself the space to read. I feel like one of my 3 things, probably my 1, 2, and 3 things have been TV, just because it's like, I tell myself this is how I'm going to turn off my brain, but I don't turn off my brain because I don't just sit and watch. I sit on my phone and get like sucked into that. Professionally, I'm not there yet, but it has helped me frame things for myself because right now there's a lot of auditions going on for, a park in Orlando that will open at some point, and we don't know what all the roles are. And so like, and because there's been a lot of closings in the last few years, like everyone's sort of like this. And it's helped me with like a framing of like, you're doing things. You don't need this to be the thing that like you devote your life to and can no longer have anything else in your life. Don't let yourself get to that point where you become so fixated on your success in one thing.
Yeah. I think for me, I, it's so funny because I'm already judging myself for saying the things that I want to say. So, like, for me, I'm in a new relationship, and I used to do tons of projects everywhere. And I told myself, like, I want to carve out time for this person. And that is hard for me. And so, really, actually, like, making the relationship a priority is something that I'm learning. And then also my health. I think I do projects, and so then I have like, here's the list of doctors I should see. And now it's like, no, I need to actually prioritize like doing those appointments and following up and all of that. And yeah, and so there's a lot of things like for me, the aspirational things was I bought a ton of books. I have a giant TBR, and then I'm mad that I don't get to read. And it's like, but you're doing all these other things. You don't, it's okay. And just being like, okay with that. And then I think the third thing for me is just writing again. I miss writing. And for just me, not for anybody else. So, yeah.
There was piece in part with our conversation with Dina. Maybe I brought it up. I don't know. Time is a construct. It might have happened after, but I took a class. And in that class, did I talk about this on the podcast? Oh my God.
Maybe. Spoiler, we record our intro. This is next week.
But we already
we recorded that one.
Where am I?
I don't know. You're in Orlando.
What are we doing?
I don't know.
Is this the whole intro? You're going to cut out me falling apart, right?
Probably not. You told me to record everything. You said that's where the gold is. That's
for the nuggets.
This is the nugget. This is it. You falling apart.
Okay, I'm going to tell this story, and then you're going to have to cut it out because this is too long, but this is too good not to share.
Okay.
So now you have to cut this part out.
Yeah, being a parent is so glamorous. It seems...
so glamorous.
So glamorous.
I have a crick in my neck, and I don't even know why.
Julie, the amount that I feel like you'd appreciate it. The amount that I Google YouTube videos that are like, how to be put together. Uncle, someone's fine.
Meanwhile, my husband this morning is like, so I Googled because like my leg's been hurting and I couldn't figure out why. And I was like, I can give you like 3 reasons and none of them have to do with the disease you're going to find on Google. Like, you don't stretch ever.
Oh, yeah.
You stubbed your toes so hard the other day. It's black and blue. Like, of course that leg hurts.
And all of his jobs are physically.
Standing.
Yeah.
And also, he doesn't drink enough water, so he's probably dehydrated.
It's just all the lactic acid. The boy needs a banana, a stretch, and a bottle of water. So, well, on today's episode, we're going to talk to someone who is put together. Desiree of the Blue Flamingos. So enjoy as we cut to our conversation.
Do I have to tell you?
I know.
We all know where the treasure's buried.
I know. It's at the very beginning of the podcast when I'm not recording. But I would like to introduce Desiree to our listener. Actually, I wouldn't. Julie, would you like to introduce Desiree to our listeners?
I would. How much time am I allowed?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay. So Desiree Lambert is Des runs and owns Blue Flamingos, plural, which is, I mean, you're pretty much full service. You choreographed, you produce, you direct. If people need insight on being a creative endeavor, like, you are their person. Des and I met in Texas. Des and I were both at SeaWorld in the production team. Desiree was in a much more creative role than me, choreographing and directing shows. And I think, did you choreograph? I know you taught the dance for the Little Sesame show I did.
Desiree, in your own words, what is the Blue Flamingos?
So Blue Flamingos, I I guess in a nutshell, is we provide connection between organizations' stories, and we connect those to an audience through different mediums. So whether that is live performance, light show performance, sometimes we do just soundtracks for like haunts that just need that extra icing to tell that story. So really, though, driving into like, what is the story and how can we connect it?
Awesome. What made you want to start the company?
So, it was kind of it was born out of necessity a little bit. So I had been working for another company who, I'm not going to name them, but they were around for a while, and I had worked for them for a while doing creative direction and pretty much what I do now. And then just a Saturday, I was headed to the airport, and they were like, "Hey, we're closing. You don't have a job anymore." So, decided to just continue on, that I just would like to continue with what I was doing. And so took a couple of months, and I had a business partner in the beginning, but then so we kind of started it together. And then last year I took over the company totally myself. So it's been good. It's been a journey though, because I really never thought that I'd be a person to have my own company. I was like, I just don't know if I've got that entrepreneurial spirit. But I have to say, I love it. I love it so much. So everything happens for a reason.
Speaking of reasons, I think that everyone on this call has had a moment where we had an organization that we worked for that we realized we didn't have a job very quickly. How were you able to kind of pick up and move forward? And like, full transparency, how long did that take you? Because I think at least for me, sometimes it was comfortable to know it's not automatic.
Yeah, it wasn't. And I felt like, it was crazy because I had my suitcase packed because I was supposed to go on like a 2.5 week, like going to each project because projects were opening. And so there were tons of people. And when we got this call on a Saturday, I felt like, it was just so surreal. And I just felt kind of like a zombie. And I was like fielding phone calls from I had to tell my team because they were like, "Oh, we're just going to send an email out." And I was like, I'm not about to let people that I work with and that they're part of my team. So I was making phone calls that I didn't have a lot of answers. And I was just trying to get people the information. So it was just kind of it was just like a weird phase. And then a client actually hired me directly to finish their project. So I went up. I already had my suitcase packed, so I was like, okay, well. So I went up to Philadelphia and worked on this project for 2.5 weeks, and I just I feel like it was beneficial in a lot of ways because it allowed me to just focus on something without focusing on my life kind of falling apart. So I did that for 2.5 weeks. We got the project opened, and then it took a while. I came back, and probably about 2 months after, there was a lot of grief there, a lot of your entire world gets flipped upside down. Like all of the plans, all of the things you thought you were going to do, you're going to work on in your personal life and your professional life, just nope, because of someone else's decision. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And I will say that it probably took a good year for me to really kind of come to terms with okay, this has happened and this is my new life now. And there are still times where I get I have something will trigger a thought of something. And then it's so it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And I went to therapy because I was like, what is happening? I just don't, and it is not a walk in the park that some people like to make it think, where it's just okay, we're doing a round of layoffs. No, it's hard. It's really hard. So I know I'm speaking to people that understand. And there's just, I don't know, because it's you get those choices taken away from you, and that's hard.
I'm actually coming up on the 1 year anniversary of when my position was dissolved while on maternity leave. And I saw somebody had a social media post today about when they were laid off, and they made a comment that the company had given them 8 months of severance. Ooh. And I just thought,
Well, that would
if
soften the
you
blow a
have
little bit.
Yeah.
8 months to pay all these people, maybe hold on to it a little bit longer. Like,
Oh yeah.
but if I was on the receiving end of 8 months of pay, man, I'd get over that real fast.
Oh, definitely. Well, and that's the thing, like, you know, I was frustrated because it's like, I'm just gonna be candid because this company is no longer in existence, so who cares?
Yeah.
They had several warehouses, and I just don't like. I didn't understand, like, why not close a warehouse, consolidate? If you saw this coming down the line, and just so many bad decisions that, like, yeah, and just the amount of people that were just told sorry, and they had to fly home. That was the kicker. Like, a lot of people were out on projects and they had to like quickly get an airline ticket before the credit cards were canceled. So it just so I like but yes, having 8 months of severance. I mean, we didn't even get our last paycheck, so like that was
Wow.
yeah. So anyways,
There's a lot of like business owners of an age. I say business owners. They might be failed business owners at this point, but I do feel like there's a lot of business owners of an age and era that like really leaned into Field of Dreams, where they were like, I built the company. The customers should come. That's enough.
Yes. It's very eye-opening. And sad.
So you had this idea for like, okay, I'm gonna start my own company, right? Or like what?
Yeah.
How did it start?
I had a lot of trust issues. So like after this happened, I was like, I had a couple of people reach out and they were like, hey, you know, we are hiring. But no offense to anybody that did that, I'm super grateful. I had trust issues. And I was like, I don't know if I want to jump into something else because I feel like my world was just really rocked. So I knew that I trusted myself and the person that I went into business with, I felt, you know, okay, well, solid footing. So we'll do this. And, you know, but even until even with like the first year, I just had this feeling of like, I don't know. But I feel like a lot of opportunities arose from that. And I got to do a lot of things that I thought might be on the back burner for me, like choreography and directing. So it's been great. It's been really great. And and I'm just kind of like open to, you know, I mean, I want to get Blue Flamingos to the 5-year mark. That's my short-term goal right now. So, but then I'm just, so we'll see what happens, but I really enjoy it. Like I love the fact that it has succeeded this far, especially when we started, it was 2020. So it wasn't the best go the first year. So,
when you are your business, you know, how do you sort of separate yourself? How do you have that sort of, I am not working now, you know, ending a session, walking away from it? Because I feel like, especially when like you are the face of the business, that pressure of like, oh, this person emailed me, I better email them back even though it's 7 p.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah. I'm still trying to work that one out because I've always felt that though. I've always felt like I've had my email on my phone regardless of where I've worked. And so, even though I'm like, okay, it's 6 p.m., I'm not going to check it. I check it, and it's a bad habit. But if I see that somebody has emailed, I never want to be the person that somebody's waiting on. So I'm like, well, let me just respond right now. I don't know if I think in certain parts of the year I'm able to separate it. But when it comes to like, because I have a busy season, which is usually like August through December. So during that period in time, I think there's really no separation. But come like January, February, I'm not as quick to respond, but at least on the weekends. But
the like having it on your phone. I don't have the willpower to not check things.
Same.
And it's not even like I get a notification. Like I'm just like, oh, I wonder. I better read it. And then you're like, should I mark it unread? What if they know I read it?
I'll forget it if I don't respond now. I might as well respond now. Here we go. You know, 100%. So why blue flamingos?
So the project we were working on in Philadelphia, it was for the Philadelphia Zoo. It was their first year project, and they were so gracious and kind to everybody that had just been laid off that was working on the project. A lot of them, they offered temporary positions too, which was just amazing because I know they had to reinvest a lot of money into their event again, because I got up there and trying to figure out, okay, well, this was ordered. Actually, no, nothing was ordered because there was a freeze on ordering and didn't realize that. So yeah, it was a mess. I can't even so anyways, Philadelphia Zoo has just so gracious. So anyways, we had this big flamingo tree that was pink flamingos, but it was the yard flamingos. So it was just this giant tree made of flamingos. And so when my business partner and I were kind of talking about, next steps, we were literally under a flamingo tree. So we were like, well, names for the company. And so we went through like a bunch of them. And then we came back to we both like the color blue. It resonated with us for several reasons. And then we were like, Blue Flamingos, an idea company. That sounds different enough and broad enough that, and we have a story too. So that's kind of how we started, was under a literal flamingo tree.
I love that. So I also love the Philly Zoo connection. I was in I grew up in the Upper Darby area right outside of Philly, and so I distinctly remember being a Girl Scout, and they would do campouts with the Girl Scouts in that big tree at the Philadelphia Zoo. So it's it's such a memory for me. So I totally understand how something like that moment under the tree, where you've made this huge decision, would impact you like that. So when you think about sort of, goal is year 5, but blue sky, big picture, any dream collaborations or venues that you want to put out in the universe?
I mean, that's really hard to say, because I feel like there have been projects that I've worked on that I never would have said, okay, this project, this location, this idea. So, I mean, blue sky, I just want to keep making cool things. I just want to keep being involved in cool projects and things that are just outside of the box. I love Christmas events, but I love when clients are wanting to create something that is not the traditional red and green. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but let's really explore. Let's explore what your brand is, and let's tie that into what you're actually giving your guests. We did a light show up at Oregon Zoo a couple of years ago, and it was all tied into conservation. And it was this whole crest of sea lions and seals and just all of the Rocky Coast animals, but it was tied into we have to protect them. And it was kind of a tree-esque shape-ish, but it was just this lawn light show, and just they really allowed us to explore different music. We had a cover of True Colors. We had Cranberries cover in there. It was just one of my favorite projects, because we were allowed to really push the envelope, and it resonated with their demographic. So yeah, so blue sky, just honestly working with clients that are really wanting to push that envelope.
I just want to say, I want to shout out to all zoos, just in general, people who are oh, well, we don't have theme parks in our area, we have nothing to do. There's usually a zoo in every city, and the programming, most of them do, is pretty awesome. And so I hear that you work a lot with zoos, but I just want to shout out, just go to zoos. Yes. They're so great.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Some of my favorite projects have been at zoos, because you aren't expecting, you're not expecting to have a really cool event in a zoo, because it's a zoo, but they do amazing things. And then it goes back into their amazing mission. So,
And as someone that's a pass holder at the Science Center, flex, I do think that zoos, nonprofits, museums, art museums, the sort of recognition of, oh, we can have seasonal events too, so that we can bring more people in and we can serve our pass holders. I'm with you, Laura. I love that is a thing. I also love like any like adult after night events at zoos and aquariums.
Yes, that I do. I like when things are like you can kind of couple them in with like a date night versus, it's like double.
It still feels like very like night at the museum where you're like, oh, I am here
when no one else
it's
is
closed. I'm so
when
cool.
I'm not supposed to be. What was like your most, I wouldn't say difficult project, but what project did you like learn the most on, or like have to like self-learn?
I feel like I've learned things from every project I've worked on, but I'm not gonna say where it was, but we did a project, not with Blue Flamingos, with the former company that it was a light show, but it was for this brand new thing that was opening, and it just, for what the client wanted and for what the budget they had, it just wasn't coming together. So really, like, knowing what you can do successfully within a budget versus what you feel like will just kind of come together was really eye-opening, because it's just eye-opening for both sides, because sometimes you can tell somebody this is not going to get you what you're wanting and they still don't hear you. So it's like just trying to find ways to really make sure that like they understand and you're painting that picture clearly, just to alleviate any disappointment once the project actually gets up on its legs. It's so hard because you want to be like, oh no, it's fine, like we can do this, but yeah, just managing expectations. It was fine, it turned out okay, but it just was it was a hard one. It was definitely hard. Install and just client expectation management was just hard.
What advice do you have for, and not even necessarily people starting their own company, but as a creator that's sort of guiding the framework of the experience? I think about any time someone reaches out for an individual gig with me and they're like, great, what's your rate? And I'm like, and I immediately every time reach out to my friend Lindsay and I'm like, how much should I charge them? I don't know how much I'm worth, because I don't know how much I'm worth. But what sort of guidance do you have for people to value themselves and present themselves as the value that they are, rather than underselling yourself?
It's hard. It's really, really hard. And I will say, like, that's one of the things that I learned probably the most working with that other company, was just how to value, but also to, to not sell yourself short. So with Blue Flamingos, it took me a little bit to be comfortable with the prices that I needed to put on paper in order to make this all work. And I really, I guess my biggest piece of advice would be just to think about all of your variables, like emails, how much time are you going to be spent on the phone, text, like, are you going to be constantly available? Are you a nice person to work with? Are you going to be flexible?
Because that's valuable.
Yeah. I feel like it is.
Yeah.
I feel like it is. And I feel like, so when I price things, knowing the project, I feel like, what you're getting is you're getting me available whenever you're calling, but also I'm going to be nice to your people and I'm going to be understanding and I'm going to be solution oriented. And so I do feel like that is a line item, of going into the overall cost. I really had to like sit down and think truly, like, okay, how many hours, how much time is devoted to this, but not even just time you're sitting there, like actually working on stuff, but the brainstorm time, right? Like the time that you're spending, like going for a walk for inspiration, or going to an event because you feel like, this person is playing music that might be just a good fit for what you're working on. And so all of that is time and energy that goes into it. And I feel like, yes, everybody has a budget to keep to, but I mean, there are reasons that people, creatives especially, charge what they charge, because there's just so much that goes into it that isn't necessarily a deliverable, but it all goes into what you're getting as an end result.
I'm smiling because I've started learning about value add time and non-value add time through some of my training in one of my various things that I do. And that's exactly what you're describing, is like the client sees the value at time. They see the face to face. They see like when you are with them working, and that is like, oh, that's what I'm paying for. But the other work that we do is where the true work and like the true inspiration, and it's a little bit harder to put a number on something like that when we know that it's valuable and necessary in order to achieve that work. But yeah. So like,
yeah, it's hard to explain that, but yes.
I think my mind, if you couldn't tell from my face, is blown of like, because I recently had a how much are you worth for this event conversation, and I to know that like, yeah, I'm actually really good to work with and I'm really flexible, and that's also really valuable. Like I know that on the day, no matter what you throw at me, I'll be like, okay, let's figure it out. And that is valuable compared to others. And so that blew my mind a little bit.
Especially like I feel like we're all at an age that like we did our time of like, yeah, I'll do this thing for free because it's a really cool experience. But I still like check myself. I'm like, am I worth more than free? Yes. What are you doing, Julie?
Especially our time is, you know. So Desiree, whenever you have a client or an event that you're doing and you aren't getting that inspiration, what do you do? Like, how do you find it?
So I take a shower.
Nice.
But a lot of my good ideas come while I'm just not even thinking about them. So like I'll take a walk, I'll take a shower. I'll go to dinner. I try to put it away because if I feel like I'm comfortable enough, because I have reached an age where I'm comfortable enough that I know that my brain will do the job and it'll do the work and it'll come up with something. It might take a day, it might take 5, but I've never not been able to come up with something. So if I sit here and I like stress about like, okay, what is this going to be? What is it going to be? It takes much longer. So I just try to like kind of turn my brain off and then stuff will come. I have my phone by me all the time. So my notes and my phone, it's like, I'll be just jotting stuff down. I don't know. I get inspiration from lots of different things. Like when I travel, I get inspired for like if there's a cultural like color pattern that goes well together, I'm like, oh, I got to take a picture of that because that might come in handy in the future. So I don't know. I don't know if that really answers the question.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
When you made a comment about how, you might go to a concert and draw inspiration there. So I'm curious, just in your personal time, what are the things that you're consuming right now? Like, is there a TV series that you're like, you have to watch this, or a book or something, or even just music?
Yeah, so I like to listen to a lot of new things coming out. Like I try to stay pretty current with like the new music because sometimes I feel like there's some inspiration there. I recently went to New York, and the whole premise of the trip was to kind of just get inspiration. I saw a show there called Water for Elephants. It was not one that I was originally going to see. I kind of bought tickets on a whim. And I just came away from that so inspired. Like if you're in the city, you have to go see it. What they do with the story so it's based on a book, but you don't necessarily have to have read the book. My husband hadn't and he enjoyed it. What they do with the storyline, just character development, the music, I'd never heard the music before, but it was so well thought out and the lyrics were just so unbelievably like just beautiful that it didn't matter. Like you were just like in it, like right from the get-go. What I appreciated about it was that it was almost a 3-hour show. It was a female director, and I felt like, no offense to male directors, but I felt like you could really tell it was just handled with such grace and just nuance and just the way that she let the characters develop and it wasn't forced. Somebody on her production team said, yes, almost 3 hours is fine. That is fine, which I feel like sometimes is a little bit of a rarity because in this attention deficit we're in where people want like fast and quick, I feel like, it's like, oh, condense. And if they would have done that, it wouldn't have been as beautiful of a story. But also just the way that they allowed the audience, they respected the audience enough they trusted them that they would believe, that they would be on this journey. I don't want to give any too much away, but the way they do the puppetry, I was like, okay, that was so inspiring for me, because it wasn't like,
Mm-hmm.
because you can have symbolism. People still understand symbolism, and you can have something
Mm-hmm.
that just, it's like a thread of something, and people will be there and they'll believe it and they'll follow it along if you commit to it. And
Mm-hmm.
that was what I took from that show, is that, okay, that is alive and well. And we don't always have to like literally pull, paint that story for people. So that was exciting. It was really exciting.
I don't know why it didn't occur to me that there would be it's water for elephants. Like, I mean, just like they're at a circus. There's animals. Oh, I love that.
It is just, oh, it's brilliant what they do with it. It's so brilliant, and it's simple. And I'm such a minimalist when it comes to like, I don't know, like I don't. Yes, glitz and glam is great, but I feel like if you can do things simply, sometimes that's better. And just, yeah, you go see it. It was really good.
It's shocking to me that you were saying simply, because I think they're hype. Like it feels like individuals, because it's so wow. I haven't seen it, but like in my head, I just assumed it was glitz and glam wow and not simple wow. So that's interesting to kind of hear from you.
There is a lot going on. I will say there's a lot going on. Like in every scene, there's a lot going on. But the way that they tell this story, I'll just give an example. So there's this one scene where the main character is like running to catch a train as it's going past. They use a ladder, a light, and some haze. And you see him just running, and it's so effective. Like they don't have a whole like train set, and they use scaffolding so well. And just everything, the way that they use movement. Oh, it was so good. I'm trying not to give too much away, but I was like, okay, this is why I came on this trip to see the show. So it was really good.
It's so interesting because you've got Water for Elephants. You've got Great Gatsby right now. And I didn't even know this, The Outsiders. It's very interesting, the direction that Broadway is taking right now. It's all the big new things are based on literary inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, for me, I love that messaging that like there's no, this is the final version of this thing. Like, I think even, I can't remember where. So there's The Great Gatsby, but then there's also another new work opening somewhere called Gatsby that's completely different.
Isn't that all Lana Del Rey music?
Maybe.
It's something
I saw like the casting. So it must be, well, who knows? It could have just been a targeted ad, but I was like, oh, there's a Gatsby too. But I love that messaging that like there's not like this is the ultimate version of this story that we can tell, because especially as things change, there are things that resonate deeply with me now that maybe didn't resonate a few years ago, pre-pandemic, or even now. Like I was watching Fallout before we started recording, and there's a scene that I won't specify. It was just a visual scene, but having a child now, that scene hit me much harder than it would have a year ago. Well, a little bit more than a year ago. I was pregnant for 9 months.
I also like the fact that the Water for Elephant like shows kind of what Desiree was talking about in the beginning of like, how do we tell this story in this medium with these resources? And Broadway has like tons of resources, but they also are limited to budget, and they have to recoup or they will not survive. And so there were probably a lot of active choices of like, we can do a train set, but is that going to fit this story this way, the way we're telling it? And also, is it economically as good as like putting more imagination into it? And so that's so now I really want to see it.
You should. It was the best thing that I've seen in a really long time.
Cool.
Laura.
Yes.
We should plan a trip.
Anytime. I'm 5 hours away.
That's true. I have so much time. What am I doing?
So Desiree, we're ending our time with you, and like, thank you so much for chatting with us. But where can people find you, and tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I have a website, it's theblueflamingos.com. It's been recently revamped. We have a new logo, so it's very exciting. And then just the usual, like Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. Yeah. And then I'm in San Antonio. So but I do projects all over. So I'm not just location based.
Cool.
I don't know why. I don't know that I knew the Blue Flamingos had an Instagram.
I'm not that active on it.
Well, you better get active.
I know.
'Cause I'm following you now.
Okay, cool. I'll post something just for you.
Yes. Yes. I think circling back to dream collaboration, my dream collaboration is a regional thing that takes you to this area so I get to see you.
Yes, that would be amazing. Or you here, because that could work too.
I know.
Thank you for listening to the Original Trail Podcast. The Original Trail Podcast is a part of the Trident Network. For more information about merch, our shows, or our other podcasts, please visit us at tridentnetwork.com.